You are now listening to the podcast.
This is Donald Trump.
Hey everybody, I want to thank the 3.5 people that are still listening. I appreciate that, and appreciate your patience. Work's been crazy, got the COVID, but as I said earlier, we're back. Going to change the format up of the show a little bit. I'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to remind everybody, please go to youtube.com/c/the yeahsopodcast and beat the shit out of that subscribe button. You have my permission, I will support you. In only that, in only the beating of the subscribe button. Anything else, I'm out.
Hey Dad, why'd you marry that hoe?
I think I'm going to start throwing out a couple tips and suggestions that either work well for me or I think will work well. I intend to try myself. I'm all about having a good time, and I want everybody else to have a good time. And I want to give back, I want to actually provide something other than just a laugh, So for any guys out there that are struggling to make conversation, or any women out there that are struggling to make conversation.
Wait, what?
I think I should have just said if anybody out there is struggling to make conversation. Anyways.
Freaking idiot.
You are now
for the guy who sees that girl in the
Yeah
office
So
every day,
podcast.
and he just hasn't
This
quite
is
gotten
Donald
up the
Trump,
balls to say
and you're
anything.
listening
And for the
to
girl that
YSP,
maybe sees the
my favorite
guy at the gas
podcast
station
in the
and thinks he's
history
hot.
of
You know what? I
podcasts.
can't recommend looking for love at a gas station.
Hey,
It's
Joe
ambitious,
Biden
no
here,
doubt.
and,
Either way,
I like corn pops.
it can get a little awkward
also
around
go to
people sometimes, and I used to be that way
podcast.
too until I
It's my
stopped
favorite
giving a shit.
podcast on the
And I suggest
thing
everyone,
with the
but
dog face
you got to take
pony
the first step
soldier.
someday, right? And
Thanks
hey,
for
what doesn't
listening
work
to
for
the,
me may work for you. What
YSP
works for me may not work for you. But always we
the
go around one time
Make
and
America
wait.
great
So,
again, man.
Godspeed, good man or woman. I do wish you the best. So I want you to look at unimportant things as something you could possibly use to your advantage. Not everything. When you hear that guy that bugs you, or a girl that bugs you, you hear them talking, and they're holding court, at work or wherever, having a conversation. Instead of just writing them off, stop and listen. I know that the saying goes is that you can learn from a dummy if you listen, but I think you can be a dummy if you don't listen. Either way, as I said, Godspeed.
You are now listening to the So podcast.
This is Donald Trump, and you're listening
And all I ask is I
to
bestow these
YSP,
tools to assist you
my
in your
favorite
success. All I ask in
podcast
return is
in
a
the history
subscribe
of
button beating
podcasts.
on my YouTube page, and I'll probably never
Hey,
charge you a
it's
dime
Joe Biden
for that
here,
subscription.
and, I
Probably
like
not.
corn pops.
YSP podcast.
It's my favorite podcast.
Yeah, look, everybody's
on the,
beating the shit out of this
thing with
goddamn
the
story
dog-faced
about
pony soldier.
Will Smith. I mean,
Thanks for
more
listening
than Chris
to the,
Rock was
YSP
beaten. And look, all joking aside,
podcast.
that slap
Take the
didn't land.
shot.
Make
Okay,
America
you
great
literally
again,
see
man.
Chris Rock plant his feet, and then you see Will Smith on his tippy toes. You don't slap another man on the tippy toes. It's WWE at this point. And the fact that people just die on it is insane to me. I mean, look, I'm an idiot, and even I figured out how to slow down the video.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
But what I want to point out here is I don't want to talk about it. The real tragedy here is the fact that Joe Rogan is allowed to announce MMA match after MMA match, and then he goes on his podcast and he argues the claim that Will Smith acted out in
You are
an
now
act of
listening
aggression
to the
because his wife didn't like a
So
joke. First of all, the
podcast.
joke was corny. I
This
agree
is
with that part.
Donald
But
Trump,
if
and
Joe
you're
Rogan
listening
can't
to
see
YSP,
that it was
my
fake,
favorite podcast
what the fuck is
in
this
the
guy doing
history
judging
of
a goddamn
podcasts.
MMA contest? And doesn't that bring all of his
Joe
judgment
Biden
into
here, and,
question
I like
as far as the
corn
MMA is
pops.
concerned? Look, I know I've been told that I'm not a Joe
podcast.
Rogan fan. I am. I
My
do. I
favorite
like the guy.
podcast on the,
I like that he doesn't
thing
hold
with the
back, and I think he's a
dog-faced
smart
pony
dude.
soldier.
I think he has a really good memory,
Thanks for listening
which
to
is
the,
key
YSP
to being smart.
podcast.
But
Take
I
the
really
shot.
feel like
Make America
Rogan is
great
on
again, man.
the side of playing into it because Chris Rock is a friend, and they're both comics, arguably. I guess depends on who you ask. But it's insulting to hear basically a WWE podcast at this point. I mean, he talked about it for 15 minutes.
I can feel it all
so
the way
that's
down
all I
in my
wanted to touch on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. God damn it.
What?
For the record, Jada is still way harder than both of those guys.
Oh, good observation, buddy.
So the next story I want to talk about is a story that I read on the Daily Dot about a guy who told a woman, he instant messaged a woman before their first
You
date
are
that
now listening to the
he asked her to come to
So
his place
podcast.
for dinner. He
This
didn't want
is
to pay
Donald
for the
Trump,
food
and
and
you're
drinks
listening
on their first
to
date.
YSP,
Was
my
it a dick
favorite
move to say that?
podcast in the history of podcasts.
Ambitious. maybe.
Hey, it's Joe
Completely
Biden
ridiculous?
here, and,
No way.
I like corn pops.
The guy was definitely a tool, and he went about it the wrong way. But look, I've had women over for a first date and cooking dinner, and let me tell you, fellas, as long as you can cook, it speaks volumes of your character.
Thanks for listening.
Again, now this was not a girl I met at a bar or on a dating app. And this is our first date. This was a person I had a previous acquaintance with. But I'm just saying, be careful, ladies. You might miss out on a great guy who can cook just because you're too busy meeting a creep or at happy hour at Applebee's. Speaking of Applebee's, and speaking of douches, I don't know if everybody heard, I'm sure you have, everybody's boycotting Applebee's now because the great and powerful leader sent out an email breaking down how the rising gas prices will somehow make it easier for them to pay less of a wage to their workers. Now, I ask this. You think maybe the guy from the Daily Dot story might possibly work at Applebee's and he just doesn't want to take her to the same place he eats dinner every night and he's not making a lot of money because you heard what the head honcho say over there? So, you know,
my
there might be a shitty boss involved here. You guys ever think of that? Nah, probably not, because he's definitely a douche, but food for thought. Speaking of food for thought,
pops.
I'm going to help you guys out. You can't cook. I know a lot of guys out there
my favorite podcast
I can barely cook, but I'm going to give you a quick recipe, and you're going to love it. You want to impress her, right? You want to make her a bowl of cereal in the morning. You're getting ready to
YSP.
I can dig it.
So this is a very simple breakfast, okay? All you need is a cup of cottage cheese, a cup of any type of oats, gluten-free preferably, 5 large eggs, 1 to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon depending on taste, and a tablespoon of maple syrup, which is optional. But they're kind of like pancakes. You just put all the ingredients in a blender and puree until it's smooth. Then heat up a large frying pan in medium-low heat. Add a little bit of butter, and then pour about a quarter cup of the batter in, and just do it until the pan's full. Make pancakes, basically. And as soon as it starts to bubble, flip it. Cook it for another minute, and then just repeat, you know, until you're done with all the batter. All the batter's used up, and you can put any topping on there you want, and it's great. It's really good. Not only that, but it's actually healthy. Man, I really wish I didn't say that because I fucking can't stand people that say that.
This is Donald Trump, and you're listening to
realize I have had diarrhea since
my
Easter?
favorite podcast.
Look, man, you're talking about 229 calories, roughly.
I wish you weren't a liar.
Hey,
I'm kidding.
Joe
I'm kidding.
Biden
I have no
here,
idea how many
and,
calories
I
it
like
is.
corn
But, I mean, you can
pops.
pour syrup on it, you can put jelly on it, you can do whatever you want. But she'll be impressed that you made something that's not just a bowl of cereal.
What
else you got?
Thanks for
You are
listening to
now
the
listening to the
YSP
podcast.
Take the shot.
Make America great again, man.
I know everybody's heard about Bruce Willis, you know, and his diagnosis of aphasia. Well, if you guys have been listening to YSP, then you already knew about that, because I talked about that a few episodes ago, because I had some insider info. I don't even remember why I said that episode. The first email is from Phil Fairfield, California. I know that is. I like the show, but I don't love the show. Please make me love the show. Thanks for making me love the show. Okay, this guy's sorry, guys.
So,
This guy's weird.
you
Shameless
are now
plug.
listening to
If you don't love it, like it. I'm
So
fine with that too.
podcast.
As long as you nuzzle up
This
and
is Donald
subscribe
Trump,
button,
and
you
you're
can do whatever
listening
you want. You can hate, subscribe.
YSP, my favorite podcast in the history of podcasts.
All right, everybody, that was the
Joe
show.
Biden
Short and
here,
sweet.
and,
And
I like
we will
corn
be back
pops.
soon with more content since we get rid of this
podcast.
goddamn coronavirus.
My favorite podcast.
Check us out on
the,
Instagram, the YS
thing with
Podcast,
the dog
YSO
face pony
Podcast on
soldier.
Twitter, and you already
Thanks
know
for
where to find
listening
us
to
on
the
YouTube. So
YSP
thanks again for listening, everybody,
podcast.
and don't cheat yourself.
shot.
Treat yourself.
Make America great again, man.
Hey, Dad, why'd you marry that whore? I don't think it's right for her to tell me to turn off my fucking beer.